Thank you for tuning in to the one and only Track and Field Bleacher Report. I'm your host, the Track Head here, coming to you with this weekend's NCAA Division I Women's Track and Field Recap. So this past weekend, it was a pretty quiet weekend. It wasn't a lot going on the women's side, but there were some quality marks put down. So we'll just jump right into it. In the women's 60, the LSU Tiger, Mikiah Brisco, ran the number 5 all-time time in the women's 60 of 7:10, which was converted for altitude. She actually ran 7:08, but converted for altitude, that was a 7:10 performance. That was a huge PR for her, and she is clearly showing that she's probably one of the top runners, or the top runner in the women's 60 this season. She had a phenomenal start, and she's just showing that she's looking really good. She's your defending champion last year in the outdoor 100-meter dash, so and she had a great start in that race, so I think she's building off of that race, and it's gave her a lot of confidence, and so she's coming into the women's 60, showing that she potentially could be your NCAA champion in the women's 60, and she's getting very close to breaking the collegiate record. So I said in my preview video, I have to eat crow. I said in my preview video that I didn't see anyone else outside of Hannah Cunliffe breaking her NCAA collegiate 60-meter record, but now that there's no longer no Hannah Cunliffe in the picture, it's looking like Mikiah Brisco could definitely challenge or better the NCAA collegiate 60-meter record, which is 7:07 set by Hannah Cunliffe. So Mikiah Brisco is very close, running 7:10, and so she still has a month and a half left of this indoor season, so she definitely has a chance to break that 7:07 set by Hannah Cunliffe. There weren't a lot of other 60-meter times put down this weekend, so like I said, it was pretty slow, but 7:10 from Mikiah Brisco, enough said. That was all we needed. Good job, Mikiah Brisco. In the women's 200, Alabama showed out this weekend in the women's 200. Alabama's freshman, Daija Lampkin, she ran 23:12, which was converted for altitude. This is an overall PR for her, both indoors and outdoors. So Daija Lampkin at University of Alabama is showing that she is an impact freshman this current year and that she's ready to rock and roll. Her freshman teammate, Tamara Clark from the University of Alabama, also PR'd this past weekend, running a 23:17, which was converted for altitude. From the University of Iowa, Brianna Gulleroy PR this past weekend, running 23:26. University of Baylor's Taylor Bennett ran 23:38, and University of Kentucky's K.L. Clark had an indoor PR of 23:38 this past weekend as well. So the women's 200 times are coming in, and the women's 200 times is looking pretty good this season. So I think that the 200 is going to be an interesting event to watch this coming season in the women's 200. The women's 400. So we finally had the 400-meter debut of the freshman phenom, Sydney McLaughlin, and she showed why she is the freshman phenom, shooting to the top of the rankings charts. She is now the number 1 ranked 400-meter runner, just barely, but she ran 41:44 this past weekend, which is an overall indoor and outdoor PR for Sydney McLaughlin. Obviously, she didn't run the 400 a lot in outdoors as a high school athlete, but still, she set her overall PR of 41:44 this past weekend, bettering the mark set last weekend by Leonard Irby of Georgia of 51:48. So the two freshmen coming in running 51:4 in their very first 400s of the season is showing that the 400 is going to be an exciting event to watch this coming season as the season progresses. And you have Sydney McLaughlin, you have Leonard Irby, both in the SEC, so that's a potential SEC lockup. If they choose to run the 400, they may not choose to run the 400 at SEC, so we'll watch SECs when that unfolds. But anyway, Sydney McLaughlin looked really good, running and without that much competition at home. It was a low-key meet at home. Nobody else really challenged her in that race, so it showed. So she was able to run 51:4 comfortably, and I think there's a lot left in the tank, and we'll see as the season progresses. Brianna Gulleroy from Iowa, she set an overall PR as well this past weekend, running 52:57. So good job, Brianna Gulleroy. Brianna Robinson from Cincinnati, she set an overall PR of 53:08. So Brianna Robinson, good job, Brianna Robinson. Brianna Thomas from Purdue. So it was a lot of Briannas and Briannas this past weekend running in the 400, and they all ran well and they all had, good marks. So Brianna Thomas from Purdue ran 53:13 this past weekend, so good job. And Kiera Griggs from Nebraska ran 53:26. So those were some of the top marks this past weekend in the women's 400. In the women's 800, this past weekend, Rachel Procrasti from Virginia Tech ran 2:03, which was a flat track converted time. And Olivia Baker opened up in the 800 this past weekend from Stanford, running 2:04. Abiki Ebene from Middle Tennessee State, she's run the 800 a couple of times this past season, and she's ran 2:04, which was flat track converted this past weekend. Ashley Taylor from Northern Arizona, she also ran a 2:04, but that was converted for altitude. And Aaliyah Miller from Baylor ran 2:05. So some respectable 800 times came in this past weekend. And the 800, as usual, on the women, it's going to take around 2:04, 2:05 to qualify for nationals. So we'll see. The women's mile, Dani Jones ran at home, and Dani Jones from Colorado, she ran at home at Colorado's meet. She ran 4:29, which was, I think she ran 4:36. But they converted it for altitude for 4:29. So Dani Jones has opened up her indoor season, showing that she's fit, she's ready to go. So congratulations, Dani Jones. Eleanor Purrier from New Hampshire, she ran at New York at the Miracles Games meet in the Wanamaker Mile with the professionals, and she ran 4:31. So Eleanor Purrier is having a good indoor season as well, and she's showing she's fit and ready to rock and roll. The highlight of the weekend in the 3K, Karissa Schweizer from Missouri, collegiate record in the books, breaking Jenny Simpson, the phenomenal Jenny Simpson's 3K record, which I thought was going to take a phenomenal athlete to break, and we had a phenomenal athlete do it in Karissa Schweizer this past weekend. She ran 8:41.60, which is now your new 3K collegiate record for the women. I already said that. So your new record holder in the women's 3K. Her previous best in the 3K was 9:06. Which she set indoors last year in 2017. So Karissa Schweizer dropped 25 seconds in a year off of her PR, which is crazy. I mean, 9:06 is not a slow time. So for her to break 9 minutes flat, but not only do that, but run 8:41 and break Jenny Simpson's, or Jenny Berringer at the time when she was in college, Jenny Berringer's record of 8:42 was a great feat for Karissa Schweizer. The women's DMR, Stanford and Michigan blocked up this past weekend at the University of Michigan. Stanford ran the number 1 time of the season of 10:58. Michigan ran the number 3 time of the season, running 11:04. Indiana ran the number 4 time of the season, running 11:06. And Minnesota ran the number 5 time of the season, running 11:07. So there was some good times put out in the DMR this past weekend. Not a lot of action going on in the field events. We had some good pole vaulters, but I didn't really get into that. So it wasn't a lot of action going on in the field events. I think next weekend, like I said, most of the schools will probably most of the schools will probably lock up next weekend in some of the big invitationals. So I expect to see a lot more times, a lot more marks put down. And so we'll have a lot more to report about. We'll be here reporting on it. So stay tuned for that. If you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, share the channel. I appreciate everyone who's watched this channel, and thank you for tuning in to the Track and Field Bleacher Report.